All right, let's dig in. Today, we're getting you prepped for a soil scientist interview.
And we've got the perfect tools for the job.
We've got RoleCatcher's interview and career guides. They're awesome
Absolutely packed with tips and insights.
to help you nail those questions. And
We'll be uncovering some really cool soil science facts along the way.
I'm ready to be amazed. Let's jump right in with the first question of RoleCatcher flags. What inspired you to pursue a career in soil science?
Now, this might seem like a basic tell us about yourself kind of question.
Yeah, typical, right?
But it's your chance to really make an impression.
It is. It's your moment to shine.
It's about showing genuine passion.
Yeah, not just like listing off your resume, right?
Exactly. Think of it as sharing your soil science origin story.
I love that. So what sparked your fascination with the field?
What got you hooked?
Yeah, was it like a childhood memory of gardening with your grandma?
Maybe a documentary on sustainable farming?
Or even a college course that just blew your mind?
You know, for example, you might have been fascinated by the tiny world of microorganisms in the soil
Oh, yeah, the little guys.
and how they impact plant health. Adding that personal connection makes your answer way more authentic.
So much better than just like a textbook answer. And don't forget, we can use RoleCatcher's AI to tailor our response to the specific job.
Oh, that's right.
Say the company's all about research and innovation.
You could talk about how your interest in, say, soil's role in climate change led you to this career path.
Oh, that's a good one, yeah. Connecting the dots.
It's all about linking your passion with the organization's goals.
Now, let's say the interviewer asks, can you elaborate on a specific project or experience that really solidified your interest?
What would impress me as an interviewer?
What would make you sit up and take notice?
I'd love to hear about a time a candidate used their knowledge in a real-world situation.
Oh, getting practical.
Like maybe they volunteered at a community garden
Oh, yeah.
and saw how different soil management techniques actually affected how much food they grew.
That's a fantastic example. It shows real experience and a genuine commitment, even before they started working professionally.
Exactly. And it gives me a glimpse into their problem-solving skills, how they can take what they've learned and apply it to real-world challenges.
Okay, so to sum up that first question, connect your personal journey to the specific role and the organization, and be ready to share a tangible example that showcases both your passion and your skills. Now, on to another common question. What are the most important properties of soil that affect plant growth?
This is your chance to shine, show off your understanding of the fundamentals.
Right, the soil basics.
But remember, it's not about reciting a textbook definition. Pick properties that resonate with you. Explain them in a way that's informative but also engaging.
Yeah, make it interesting. The career guide does a great job of bringing those properties to life.
Oh, how so?
Well, it talks about soil texture, the proportion of sand, silt, and clay.
Oh, the classic trio.
Imagine like running your fingers through different types of soil.
I love that.
Clay feels all sticky, sand is gritty, and loam is smooth. It's a total sensory experience.
And each texture affects plant growth differently, right?
Totally. Sandy soil drains quickly, while clay soil holds on to moisture. Knowing these differences helps you choose the right soil for different plants.
It's all about understanding the needs of your plants.
Then there's pH, the measure of acidity or alkalinity.
Like a chemistry experiment, but in your garden.
Right. Different plants thrive in different pH ranges,
The blueberries love acidic soil, for instance.
while most veggies prefer a more neutral pH. And you can actually adjust the pH using amendments, like lime, to make it more alkaline.
Or sulfur to make it more acidic.
It's a balancing act.
And let's not forget organic matter.
Ah, the good stuff.
The decomposed remains of plants and animals. It's like soil's secret ingredient, providing essential nutrients, improving structure, and helping it hold on to water.
So important. And RoleCatcher's AI can actually help you choose which properties to focus on.
Oh, that's handy. How does it do that?
It analyzes the job description and suggests tailoring your answer. It's like having a personalized study guide.
So smart.
All right, let's say the interviewer asks, how would you explain the importance of soil structure to someone with no science background?
Ooh, that's a good one. It tests your ability to communicate complex ideas simply.
Exactly.
You could use an analogy, something like, imagine soil as a house for plant roots.
I love that. A house for roots.
Right. Well-structured soil is like a house with spacious rooms, good ventilation, and strong foundations.
So the roots can grow freely and access water and nutrients.
Exactly. It makes it easy to understand, even for someone who's not a scientist.
And it shows that you can communicate scientific information clearly, which is a valuable skill in any field.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, we've covered two important questions. Now, for one that often trips people up, what types of soil erosion are there and how can they be prevented? This one seems a bit more technical.
It is, but it's designed to assess your problem-solving skills.
So how do we tackle it without getting overwhelmed?
Break it down step by step. First, define the main types of erosion.
The career guide has some really vivid descriptions.
Oh, like what?
Things like wind whipping away topsoil like a sandblaster,
Oof, yeah, that's a powerful image.
and water carving gullies into the land like a sculptor.
Those descriptions really highlight how destructive erosion can be.
So if I were answering this question, I might start by defining each type, using those vivid descriptions,
Yeah.
and then move on to prevention methods, right?
Exactly.
For water erosion, we could talk about contour plowing, which follows the natural curves of the land to slow down runoff,
It's like working with the land instead of against it.
and cover cropping. That acts like a protective blanket for the soil, preventing both water and wind erosion.
Like giving the soil its own armor. And remember to tie your answer back to the specific job you're applying for.
Right, make that connection.
If the role focuses on sustainable agriculture, you could highlight how these methods not only protect the soil, but also improve crop yields and help the environment.
It's a win-win-win. All right, let's say the interviewer asks, can you give a specific example of how you've used erosion control methods?
What would impress you there?
I'd love to hear about a project where a candidate combined different techniques to address a specific erosion challenge.
Like a multi-pronged approach.
Exactly. Maybe they designed a drainage system combined with terracing to stabilize slopes and planted cover crops for added protection.
That's a great example of thinking holistically about erosion control. It shows they understand how different soil management practices work together.
Okay, so to recap this question, it's all about knowing the types of erosion, explaining those prevention methods clearly and engagingly, and connecting your answer to the job requirements. Bonus points for sharing a real-life example.
Absolutely.
All right, feeling more confident. Let's move on to a question that explores career path and growth. Where do you see yourself in 5 years within the field of soil science? This one feels a bit tricky.
It can be, but it's a chance to show your ambition and your understanding of different career paths.
So should we be super specific or more general?
Find a balance. Be specific enough to show you've thought about your career trajectory, but also flexible to show you're open to new opportunities.
Okay, so a mix of both. The career guide outlines roles from entry-level to senior positions, which is helpful.
It helps you visualize those different pathways.
You could start as a research assistant, then progress to a soil scientist, and eventually become a project manager or lead researcher.
And within those broader categories, there are tons of specializations, right?
So many options. You could focus on soil conservation, nutrient management, environmental remediation, even soil microbiology.
That's what I love about this field. So many ways to make a difference.
But how do you figure out which path is right for you?
Well, that's where RoleCatcher's AI can be super helpful.
Our trusty AI.
It maps out potential career paths based on your profile, suggesting roles that match your qualifications and what you want to achieve.
So you're not alone in this journey.
Nope. You've got a personalized guide. And don't be afraid to express your desire to learn and grow. You could say, in 5 years, I see myself taking on more leadership roles, contributing to research, and mentoring junior scientists.
That's great. It shows ambition, but also a team-oriented mindset.
Exactly. And try to tie your answer back to the organization. Do your research and show how your goals align with their specific projects or initiatives.
Okay, let's say the interviewer asks, what steps are you taking to achieve those career goals?
What would you highlight there?
I'd talk about professional development. Pursuing certifications, like the Certified Professional Soil Scientist.
Oh, yeah, the CPSS.
Attending conferences and workshops, joining professional organizations like the Soil Science Society of America.
Great examples. And don't forget about keeping up to date with the latest research.
Reading those journals, staying current.
Exactly. RoleCatcher actually provides links to these resources.
Makes it super easy.
It's your one-stop shop for career advancement.
Okay, so for this question, it's about showcasing your ambition, highlighting your goals, mentioning those professional development steps, and connecting it all to the organization's mission.
Nailed it.
I'm really seeing how preparation and genuine passion can make such a difference. Okay, next question. What is your experience with GIS and remote sensing in soil science?
This one might be intimidating for newcomers.
It can be, but honesty is key.
Yeah, don't try to fake it.
If you have limited experience, acknowledge it, but emphasize your eagerness to learn and why these technologies are important.
So it's about showing a willingness to grow. The career guide explains GIS lets us map and analyze soil data. It's like Google Maps, but for soil.
I love that analogy.
You can see variations in properties, erosion patterns, land use practices, all on a map. And then remote sensing uses aerial imagery and satellite data
Like having a bird's eye view.
to monitor changes over time. So how would you approach this question if you're new to these technologies? You could say something like, I'm still developing my hands-on experience, but I understand how important GIS and remote sensing are.
That's a good start.
I've taken some introductory courses, and I'm actively looking for opportunities to expand my skills.
It shows you're aware of the trends and committed to continuous learning.
Exactly. And you can tie it back to your career goals. You can say, I believe being proficient in these technologies is essential for tackling complex issues like soil degradation and climate change, and I'm eager to contribute to research and innovation.
Ooh, that's good. Shows you're thinking big. Okay, let's say the interviewer asks, can you give an example of how you'd use GIS or remote sensing to solve a soil-related problem?
This is where you demonstrate your understanding, even if you haven't used them a ton.
Okay, so what kind of example would work?
You could say, I could use GIS to map areas at high risk erosion based on factors like slope, soil type, and rainfall.
Okay, mapping out the danger zones.
And then this information can be used to prioritize conservation efforts.
So you're using the technology to target interventions.
Exactly. It shows you can think strategically and apply these tools to real-world problems.
And remember, you can always use RoleCatcher to practice these technical questions and get feedback from the AI.
It's like having a virtual mentor.
Okay, to sum up this question, honesty is key. Acknowledge any gaps in experience, but emphasize your eagerness to learn. And try to provide a specific example that shows you understand the concepts.
Perfect. Remember, being able to learn and adapt is just as valuable as having existing expertise, especially in a field as dynamic as soil science.
Loving these tips. Okay, let's tackle another question. Tell me about a time you encountered a challenging situation in your work or studies related to soil science. How did you approach the problem and what did you learn? This one seems like it needs some storytelling skills.
It does. It's a behavioral interview question. They want to see how you've handled tough situations in the past.
So it's about showing how you overcome obstacles and learn from mistakes.
Exactly. Think back to your experiences in research projects, lab work, field work, even volunteering.
Any moments where things didn't go as planned?
Exactly. Maybe you got unexpected results in an experiment.
Or had to change your sampling methods because of the weather?
Those are great examples. It's not about the size of the problem, it's about how you approached it.
Okay, what if I'm struggling to come up with a real-life example?
It's always better to use a real story.
Okay, yeah, keeps it authentic.
But if you're really stuck, you can frame a hypothetical situation that still shows off your problem-solving skills.
Okay, so if you absolutely have to, you can get creative. But real examples are best. So how do we structure our answer?
Use the STAR method. Situation, task, action, and result. Describe the situation and what you needed to do.
Set the scene.
Then detail what actions you took, highlighting your thinking process and decision-making.
Show how you tackled the challenge.
And finally, explain the outcome and what you learned.
Okay, STAR method it is. Let's say I was working on a research project, analyzing soil samples for heavy metal contamination, and I found some inconsistencies in the data.
Interesting. So the situation is analyzing soil samples. The task is accurately measuring heavy metal levels. What did you do about those inconsistencies?
Well, first, I double-checked my calculations. Made sure the equipment was calibrated right. Then, I talked to my supervisor and colleagues to brainstorm possible explanations.
Collaboration is key.
We realized the sampling locations might have been too close to an industrial area.
Ah, so the location was a factor.
We decided to expand the sampling area further from the industrial zone and reanalyze the data.
And what happened?
This time the results were consistent. We were able to draw reliable conclusions about the contamination.
That's a great example of identifying the problem and taking action to correct it. And what was the biggest takeaway for you?
I learned how important careful planning and site selection are when you're doing soil sampling, and the value of teamwork.
Absolutely. By using the STAR method, you showed your problem-solving abilities, your willingness to learn, and your commitment to doing good science.
I love how that method brings structure to the story. Makes it much clearer and more impactful. And remember, you can practice answering behavioral questions with RoleCatcher.
And get that personalized feedback from the AI.
Amazing. It's like having a virtual interview coach.
Precisely. Practice makes perfect, and the AI can boost your confidence and help you handle anything the interviewer throws your way.
Feeling more prepared with each question we tackle. Let's move on to another one about your career aspirations. What are your long-term career goals in the field of soil science? This one can feel a bit daunting, especially when you're starting out.
It can be, but it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's a chance to paint a picture of your future self.
So where do you even begin with a question like that?
Think about the impact you want to make. What are your passions within soil science?
Yeah, what really gets you excited?
The career guide highlights some inspiring paths: leading research projects, developing sustainable farming practices, influencing policy decisions.
So many possibilities.
There are countless ways to contribute, whether it's through research, education, outreach, even entrepreneurship.
Okay, but how do we turn those big dreams into a solid interview answer?
Start by figuring out your core values and interests. What aspects of soil science really speak to you?
What are your whys?
Are you passionate about environmental sustainability, food security, scientific discovery? Once you've got that, explore career paths that match those passions.
So if you're all about protecting the environment, you might aim for a career in soil conservation or remediation.
Exactly. It's okay to have multiple interests, too. You can say something like, my long-term goal is to contribute to sustainable agriculture that protects soil health, enhances food security, and tackles climate change.
Wow, that's hitting all the big points.
And you can add something like, I'm really interested in the role of soil microbiology in nutrient cycling and carbon sequestration.
Okay, showing specific interests within that broader goal.
And remember, connect it back to the organization. Research their mission and values and highlight how your goals align with theirs.
Okay, let's say the interviewer asks, how do you plan to achieve those long-term goals?
This is where you talk about your proactive approach to professional development.
Show them you're a go-getter.
You might mention pursuing advanced degrees, certifications, attending conferences, seeking out mentors.
Really going for it?
You could even talk about starting your own research projects.
Wow, taking the initiative.
And don't forget networking with other professionals, joining those organizations, staying updated on the latest research.
RoleCatcher can help with all of that too, right?
Absolutely. It connects you with organizations, conferences, publications.
It's like a support system for your career.
Exactly. It's your one-stop shop for building your career.
Okay, so to sum up this question, identify your core values, explore those career paths that match, articulate your long-term goals, connect them to the organization, and highlight your proactive approach.
Perfect. You're well on your way to interview success.
I'm feeling more and more confident with each question. Let's tackle another one. Describe a time you demonstrated leadership skills in a group setting. This one can be tricky if you haven't had a formal leadership position.
It can be, but remember, leadership isn't just about titles. It's about initiative, ownership, inspiring others.
So where can you find those examples if you haven't been, like, the team captain?
Think about group projects in school, volunteering, extracurricular activities, even those related to soil science.
So anything where you worked with others?
Have you ever taken charge of a task, coordinated a team effort, mentored someone?
Okay, I see. It's about those moments where you stepped up.
Exactly. Maybe you spearheaded a fundraising campaign for a community garden.
Or organized a study group.
Perfect examples. The size of the group or the project doesn't matter as much as the leadership qualities you showed.
Okay, what if my examples don't feel leadership-y enough? Like, what if I just helped a colleague with a tough task, even though I wasn't officially in charge?
That totally counts.
Sure, good to know.
Leadership takes many forms. Mentoring and supporting teammates is a valuable skill.
Okay, so even those smaller actions can count. So how should we structure this answer?
Use the STAR method again.
Back to STAR. Okay, got it.
Describe the situation and the task. Detail what you did to show leadership. Emphasize initiative, communication skills, and motivating others. Then explain the outcome and what you learned.
All right, I'm getting the hang of this. Let's say I was on a group project in a soil science class. We had to design an experiment to test different composting methods on soil fertility.
Great example. So the situation is a group project. The task is designing and conducting the experiment. What did you do to show leadership?
Well, the group was struggling to get started, so I took the initiative to schedule a meeting outside of class.
Good move.
We brainstormed ideas and assigned roles.
Taking charge.
I volunteered to create a timeline and a checklist to keep us on track.
Those are essential organizational skills. What about during the experiment itself?
I noticed one of my teammates was having trouble with the data analysis, so I helped them with the calculations and offered support.
That's great. Mentoring and teamwork are key leadership skills. What was the outcome of all your efforts?
We finished the experiment, presented our findings, and got great feedback from the professor.
That's awesome.
But more importantly, we felt proud of what we accomplished and learned how important collaboration and good communication are.
Those are valuable lessons. And what did you learn about your own leadership style?
I realized I like to take initiative, organize tasks, and support my teammates.
Those are great strengths to have.
And I saw how important clear communication and active listening are in a group setting.
Absolutely. By using the STAR method, you effectively conveyed your leadership skills, your ability to work in a team, and your commitment to reaching those shared goals.
I love how the STAR method helps highlight those leadership moments that might get lost otherwise.
Exactly. And remember, you can practice these behavioral questions with RoleCatcher
To get that AI feedback.
It can help you pinpoint specific leadership behaviors and polish your storytelling.
It's like having a virtual leadership coach.
Practice makes perfect. The AI can help you feel more confident and ready to showcase your potential.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. I'm feeling way more prepared for my interview.
That's great to hear. Preparation is key, and with practice and the right resources, you can land that dream job.
All right, let's wrap up this segment with a quick recap.
Sounds good?
When answering interview questions, showcase your passion, connect your experiences to the role and organization, demonstrate your knowledge, highlight your problem-solving skills, articulate your career goals, emphasize leadership potential, and practice, practice, practice.
Excellent summary. And remember, the interview is not just about right or wrong answers. It's about showing your enthusiasm and genuine interest in the field.
Let your passion shine through.
Now let's move on to the next segment, where we'll dive into specific questions related to different areas of soil science.
I'm ready to dig deeper.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit. We're going to delve into some questions that might pop up depending on, what specific area of soil science you're going for.
Okay, so getting into those niches.
This is where all those insights from RoleCatcher's Career Guide come in handy.
Love it. I can just picture our listener maybe a little nervous, but excited to show they know their stuff.
Exactly. So let's say you're interested in a role with lots of field work.
Boots on the ground.
You might get asked, describe your experience with soil sampling techniques and explain why proper procedures are important.
Okay, so it's about practical know-how, but also understanding the reasoning behind it.
Right, the why behind the what. What are some key points to hit here?
Good question. What would you want to hear?
Well, first, show me, those different sampling tools and methods. We can talk about augers, probes, shovels.
The classic tools of the trade.
You could even describe what it feels like to take a core sample, how much you can tell just from that cylinder of soil.
I like that. It shows you've actually been out there, hands in the dirt.
Exactly. Then, for the importance part, you need to emphasize representative samples.
Making sure each sample accurately reflects the bigger picture.
Right, because if you don't sample correctly, you get bad data.
Yeah.
And that can lead to, wrong decisions about land management, environmental assessments, all sorts of things.
So it's about connecting those hands-on actions to the real-world consequences. Okay, I'm the interviewer now. Hit me with a follow-up question that would really test someone's depth of knowledge.
Okay, so see. How would you adapt your sampling strategy in a situation with highly variable soil conditions, like, say, a landscape that goes from forest to grassland?
Ooh, that's a good one. Makes you think on your feet.
It does. What would make a standout answer?
What would impress you?
A candidate who understands that you need more intensive sampling in those areas with lots of variation. They get that it's a balance between effort and getting accurate data.
So they're showing they can adjust their approach based on the situation. And this is where RoleCatcher's AI can be a game changer, right?
Absolutely.
Analyzing similar job descriptions to anticipate these curveball questions.
Exactly. It's like getting a sneak peek into the interviewer's mind. You can prepare for those nuanced scenarios and show you're not just a textbook soil scientist, but a problem solver.
Okay, I'm loving this. Let's move on to another area of expertise. What kind of question might someone face in a lab-focused role?
A common one is, describe your experience with soil testing methods and explain how they're used to assess soil health and fertility.
Ah, yes. for the lab enthusiasts.
This is where you get to geek out a little about the analytical side of things.
Break out those beakers and test tubes.
Talk about those cool tests, pH, nutrient levels, organic matter. You could even mention techniques like spectrophotometry or titration.
But it's not just about listing off tests, right? It's about the so what.
You got it. Connect those tests to the big picture. Explain how they help decide things like fertilizer application, identifying nutrient deficiencies, or assessing the impact of land management. Ultimately, how they're used to optimize soil health for plant growth.
Okay, now I'm picturing the interviewer getting really interested. What follow-up could dig deeper into a candidate's expertise?
I might ask, okay, you find high levels of phosphorus in a soil sample. What could be causing that, and what advice would you give to a farmer based on this finding?
That's getting real world. It's not just knowing the test, it's about applying that knowledge.
Exactly. A strong candidate would discuss those potential sources of phosphorus.
Like what?
Over-fertilization, maybe animal waste, even specific types of rock formations. And then they'd tailor their advice based on the context.
So no one-size-fits-all answer.
Right. They might suggest soil amendments, adjust the fertilization plan, maybe even use cover crops to deal with that excess phosphorus.
It's like soil detective work. And I bet RoleCatcher could help here too.
How so?
By suggesting case studies or research articles based on the job description.
Totally. The AI can pull up those real-world examples that show you're not just a walking lab manual, you're a problem solver who can translate data into action.
I love that. Okay, one last area of expertise. Let's say our listener is drawn to soil conservation and environmental sustainability. What kind of question might they get?
A classic one is, describe your understanding of soil's role in climate change mitigation and explain some strategies for enhancing soil carbon sequestration.
Ah, the big picture question.
Mm.
Where soil science meets the global challenge.
Exactly. This is where you get to show your passion for the environment and your understanding of how soil, plants, and the atmosphere are all interconnected.
Okay, that's a lot to unpack. Where do we even begin to answer this?
Start with the basic concept. Soil is a massive carbon sink.
Okay, so it stores carbon.
It stores more than the atmosphere and all plant life combined. But the problem is, when land is degraded, all that stored carbon is released.
Uh-oh, contributing to climate change.
Right. So you've set the stage, the good, the bad, and then the solutions.
Bring on the hope.
This is where you talk about specific strategies like reducing tillage, cover cropping, agroforestry, even using biochar.
So many ways to lock that carbon back in the soil.
Exactly. It's a toolbox for climate action, and soil scientists are the ones who know how to use those tools.
All right, give me a follow-up that would really test a candidate's commitment to this area.
Okay, how about this? How would you convince farmers or policymakers who might be hesitant about these soil-based climate solutions?
Ooh, that's good. Now you have to be persuasive.
It's not just about the science anymore. It's about communication and getting people on board.
What would make a strong answer?
A candidate who can tailor their message to different audiences.
So, speaking their language.
Right. Highlighting the economic benefits, the long-term sustainability, maybe even appealing to their sense of responsibility for the land.
It's like being a soil advocate, not just a scientist. And RoleCatcher could help here too, right?
Absolutely.
By providing insights into what that specific organization cares about.
Exactly. The AI helps you craft a message that resonates with the interviewer, showing you're not just passionate about soil, but about making a real impact.
I'm honestly so inspired by all this. Soil science is about so much more than just dirt.
I know, right? It's about food security, climate action, protecting the environment. It's way more than I ever realized starting out. That's the beauty of it. And remember, these are just examples. Soil science is huge and always changing. So stay curious, keep learning, and let your passion guide you.
Okay, before we move on, let's recap those key takeaways for answering questions about specific areas of expertise.
Go for it.
All right, so first, showcase that practical experience and your understanding of the why behind those techniques.
The reasoning is important.
Then connect your answer to the bigger picture, explaining how your skills help solve those real-world problems. And finally, don't be afraid to be passionate. Show them why soil science matters.
That's it. Now let's move to our final segment where we'll explore general tips for really nailing that interview and handling those tricky behavioral questions.
Okay, let's seal the deal.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground, prepped for those technical questions, but now let's talk about those final touches that can really make you shine in your interview.
Yeah, it's not just about what you know, right?
Mm.
It's how you present yourself, that confidence.
Exactly. And I think one of the biggest things to remember is the interviewers are looking for the right fit just as much as you are. They want to see if you're the person who's going to thrive in their team.
That's a good point. So it's more about showing who you are, your personality, your enthusiasm.
Absolutely. Let your passion for soil science really shine through. Talk about what excites you about the field, what keeps you curious, what makes you want to keep learning.
Yeah, let that passion be contagious. Now, any other tips for those behavioral questions? We've touched on the STAR method.
One thing I always recommend is to have a few stories ready to go, stories that showcase your strengths. Think about things like teamwork, problem solving, communication, adaptability, whatever's important for the job.
Okay, so like a highlight reel of your best moments.
Exactly. Practice telling those stories in a clear and concise way, highlighting what you did and the impact you made. And don't be afraid to be a little bit vulnerable.
Vulnerable.
Yeah, talk about challenges you've faced, mistakes you've learned from, those moments that helped you grow as a scientist and as a person.
I like that. It's not about pretending to be perfect. It's about showing that you're a real person who's always learning.
Exactly. And remember, the interview is a two-way street. Come prepared with thoughtful questions for the interviewers. It shows you've done your research and you're genuinely interested in the opportunity.
Yeah, those questions can make a big difference. Now, what about after the interview? Any tips for dealing with those post-interview nerves?
First of all, give yourself credit for putting yourself out there. Then send a thank you note. Reiterate your enthusiasm and mention something specific from the conversation that resonated with you.
It's a nice way to show you were paying attention and you genuinely enjoy the conversation.
Okay, one last question. How can RoleCatcher help our listener beyond the interview? RoleCatcher can be a valuable tool throughout your entire career. It can help you find professional development opportunities, connect with mentors, even explore different career paths as your interests change.
It's like having a career coach in your pocket.
Exactly. The world of soil science is constantly evolving, so embrace that lifelong learning, stay curious, and never stop digging deeper, both literally and figuratively.
I love that. So, to wrap up our deep dive, here are those final tips for interview success. Showcase your enthusiasm, prepare those compelling stories, ask thoughtful questions, send that thank you note, and remember, RoleCatcher is there to support you every step of the way.
Well said. And remember, you've got this. The world needs passionate soil scientists like you.
That's a wrap on our Soil Scientist Interview Prep Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep exploring the amazing world beneath our feet.